Central Technical College.
Okay, so that kind of sums up pretty much what we just told you, and you actually got some visuals of being able to see what it's all about. So, anyone interested in becoming a fire medic yet? No, not even after seeing that video? Come on. The fun stuff of it also. With that, like what you had seen in the video and stuff as well, as you can see even with a few of these pictures, there's a little bit more to it too. We are all actually like a good community. These guys mentioned a little bit of, camaraderie and stuff with it. We live at that fire station for 24 hours. We become like family to each other in that as well. So it's not just, you can't hate the guy that's there or the girl that's there that you work with or whatever. You have to get along with them. You have to be willing to work with them. You learn a lot about them. You learn a lot about their family and everything as well too. And there's like 54 of us on the Wausau Fire Department, so you get to know a lot about a lot of different people. There's a lot of different personalities. That's where psychology degrees come in really good. You gotta be able to deal with all different types of personalities, personnel, all that type of stuff. So it's actually a very well-rounded type of a job to know a lot of stuff about a lot of different things. You learn a lot from the brother next to you, as well as like on the days off, you're roofing their houses, you're doing something, they're pouring their driveway to building a house for them or something too, and helping out with, it's more of a brotherhood, sisterhood type of a job as well. So, but you can see like this picture right here, for instance, is a big picture where the firefighters get together and we do a lot of fundraising in that as well, for especially muscular dystrophy and for our Wausau Community Foundation, where the firefighters collect donations, do different types of fundraisers for events, and help out different families or people in need in the community as well. So it's not just plain old firefighting that too, we do a lot for the public and a lot of service and stuff as well in that. It's called Fill the Boot. That's a real big thing for muscular dystrophy. In the years that I've been with the fire department, that too, and up to Corey's job here as well, we've raised over, like say, $400,000 and stuff for just muscular dystrophy with all the just different events. So if you like that kind of stuff too as well, we do a lot of that too. So there's a lot of different things to get involved with than just your job. All right. You guys want to show them some of the medical stuff or anything else to add?
How many, how many seniors are in here? Mostly seniors? Are you guys like thinking about the medical field at all? Is that kind of the nursing or, not sure, nursing maybe? Oh, okay. So a big part of our job obviously is just the ambulance stuff. We go to a lot of cardiac arrests, people whose hearts aren't beating, we do CPR. Heart attacks, strokes, unresponsive. So this is kind of the bread and butter of the things we take in, the things we use. This is our monitor. This is like $30,000 roughly. A lot of things we use are expensive, but they're pretty fascinating in what we can do. So I guess we'll just talk a little bit about cardiac arrest so you guys can paint a picture for you. So say we're at the station, we just got done eating lunch, our tones go off, dispatch says, Med 2, you're dispatched to a 60-year-old, found unresponsive on the floor, no pulse, bystanders are going to start CPR. So that's our indication to kind of think, okay, we're going to run through our ALS code, our advanced life support. So this is called a Lucas device. We got these a couple years ago. This actually does CPR for you, which frees up our hands to do a lot of other things. A lot of things we do are kind of algorithms, so depending on the patient's status, we'll kind of go down that route, and there's just different things we have to do as far as medication, taking care of their airway, CPR, shocking them if it's advised. But this does CPR for us. It's pretty innovative. We'll stick that on. They'll be laying on the floor. We'll put their hands up in here, tie them shut. So this will do CPR for us, like I said. I don't remember how much it costs, but it's rather expensive as well. But the breakthrough in technology of this has saved so many more lives than, I don't know the stat, but just doing regular hands-on CPR is important. But this thing is definitely something that most fire departments are going to, because it makes a difference. So the biggest thing that we do in a cardiac arrest is CPR. I mean, pushing on your heart to pump the blood through the body is actually what truly saves you. I mean, there's some medications that we give that obviously do too, but that's the most important thing. So I don't know, are you guys all CPR certified? Did you do that in high school anymore?
That's part of this class, is we're certifying them right now. So we haven't gotten to CPR yet, that'll be soon, but,
Yeah.
so we'll just use that.
Yeah. But this machine itself is just, like Corey said, is so much more efficient. What it does is it takes the stress off of the bystander or the paramedic to have to do the thrusting of the chest and stuff, and doing the compressions. So if you have a machine that can do it, that frees up a pair of hands to be able to help and do something else. Plus the consistency of it, you know, getting that pressure just right and beating that heart at the right pace is what the machine does for you. So this is something, like we said, it keeps changing, something keeps changing in the, basically in the industry. This is something new that we picked up about within the last 5-10 years, 5 years, 7 years, so less than 10 years ago we had that. So for the first 15 years, let's say of my career, we had to pump, you know, with our hands and stuff on the patient. So to be able to do that is so much more efficient, and it saves the energy of the firefighters also, because when you get tired, your efficiency is gonna drop.
Do all of our stations have this?
Yes.
What about Weston and everything?
I think they do now, I thought they got it.
I think they do, even the hospital has it now too. So if we bring a patient in, or something happens to a patient at the hospital, if you're working in the hospital even, you'll see this in the hospital as well. They bring something in to put right over the bed and to thump for you.
It doesn't matter how big or strong or in shape you are, you can't do good CPR for more than 2 or 3 minutes, and you're just exhausted to do adequate compressions. Because we've all done it when we didn't have this, or if for some reason the battery died on this, because they only last, we can do CPR with this for 45 minutes, but even at that, 2-3 minutes, you're dripping with sweat and you can barely keep going. It's like you just ran a mile and are exhausted.
Well, and we'll tell kids that, you know, when do you stop? And then kids will say, well, if you're too exhausted to continue, because we've talked about it. And then they'll say, what do you mean you're too exhausted to continue? How would you ever stop doing CPR if somebody needed it? And you don't understand what goes into it, so that, I'm glad you mentioned that. 2 to 3 minutes and you're just.
I mean, if you're still waiting for an ambulance to come, do whatever you can, by all
Right.
means. If you can't get anybody to switch out, anything is better than nothing, but you can't last more than 2-3 minutes, and you really do need to switch out with somebody, because you'll need a break. If you're doing good compressions, it's a lot of work to compress the chest. You wouldn't think it is, but to continuously do it at such a high rate is very difficult.
And yeah, you guys, when you take CPR, you'll learn obviously what to do to get CPR certified. But I remember when I took it thinking like, oh, why do I need to do this? I'm never going to see anyone go into cardiac arrest. But it happens a lot more than you would think. Out in the store, restaurant, whatever, someone collapses and no one knows what to do. They freak out. Well, it's going to take us about 2 minutes minimum maybe to get there. And the 2 minutes that nobody is on that person's chest is 2 minutes closer to them being brain dead. So when you take CPR, just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. You might never use it. I mean, honestly, you might not. But the time that you will need to do it, or you could do it, I mean, you truly could save someone's life. Last week they had a local gym in Wausau. Guy collapsed, went into cardiac arrest. Bystanders did CPR. Our EMS got there. We ran our code, whatever, got a pulse back. He woke up in the ICU and he was talking an hour later. And that's from legit his heart not beating at all. And that's just like zero brain activity. So because bystanders did CPR, I would say that certainly saved him. So when you guys do get your CPR cards, just
What does that machine all do?
keep that in mind.
I was just gonna bring up one thing. If you ever have anybody go down, the thing to think about with CPR is it's not just keeping the heart beating, it's keeping oxygen going to the brain. Because the heart's gonna last a lot longer than the brain will. So if it takes us 10 minutes to get there and get somebody back, we've gotten pulses back, but they're basically brain dead, because the brain's been without oxygen for too long, that they're not gonna have any brain activity. So even if we can keep the body alive, the brain is the biggest thing, that pumping that oxygenated blood yet through the body is the biggest thing. The goal of doing CPR is to give them a chance yet.
So this is kind of like an AED. You guys probably all know what an AED is. This is our AED, but we run it manually. We can see what rhythm their heart's in. whether it's a perfusible rhythm or not. So if someone's having if they're unresponsive, they're in cardiac arrest, we'll stack these pads on their chest just like an AED. We'll be able to look and see what their heart's doing. Then it's our determination to juice them up and hit them with the shock button, or give them a certain medication. And then also the other thing this does, if someone's having chest pain or they think they're having a heart attack, we can put all these stickers on their chests and we can take a picture of their heart and determine whether they're having a heart attack, whether, mostly it's a heart attack, I guess, in that case, and then we can actually send that picture right to the ER doctors and say, hey, this is what we got, he's having a heart attack. And they'll actually call cath lab. They trust us that much that they'll get things going in the cath lab for the cardiologist. So that's pretty important, I guess you could say. They put a lot of faith in us out in the field. But so I like to think that I'm just as smart as a doctor some days. But.
That's what I was gonna ask. Do you ever have instances where a doctor questions what you guys did prior to them getting to the ER? Obviously it doesn't sound that way, but I always wondered that, like, yeah, you're doing all of that on the way there, and then that ER doctor takes over and they question what you did with them prior to that. I don't know if that's ever happened.
We're very fortunate with the group of paramedics we have at Wausau and the relationship with the hospital here that our medical director is at Aspirus, and they can just kind of blanket check us off and say, hey, these guys are good, but they've been really good at coming in over the years and actually training with us and knowing that, hey, these guys, we're a really progressive department, we do a lot more stuff before like for how small Wausau is, we're treated kind of like a bigger paramedic department. Like a major city, we're very aggressive with our protocols, what we can do, so there's very little we can't do that they can do in the ER outside of going to an operating room. So we've kind of gained that respect and trust from them. So very rarely would we be questioned, and honestly half the time if we'd be questioned on something, it'd be like, hey, what's your thought process on this? Because that was the right route, you were going the right route with this, and just kind of to help build off of anything. It's never, I don't know if any guys have really been like brought up like you really messed up and need to do something. It's everything is a learning opportunity to build off of. They just have that much more knowledge in the medical field that we just learn little by little more from them besides what we learned in school.
I think they view us as a pretty good asset, it wasn't always like that. We were on medics since 2002. Before that, you had to call in for a lot of stuff. You get a diabetic, you had to call in for a finger stick, it's really come a long ways with the trust we've established with them and stuff, and it's good that way,
Right. Paramedics carry enough drugs on the ambulance and in their bags to be able to work a patient that does have a heart attack on scene without even transporting them to the hospital until we have a heartbeat back. If we don't get a heartbeat back, let's say, unfortunately, which does happen sometimes, usually in the elderly, and they do pass away, we can stay right on scene with the paramedics without transporting them and having a doctor pronounce them dead, okay? These paramedics have got enough training right now and enough medication and stuff like that to do everything possible that they could do in an emergency room. All the way from, administering the right drugs to get your heart to start beating again, to intubating. What I mean by that is putting a tube down your throat to be able to breathe for you, okay, so that we're bagging you and breathing for you. The paramedics nowadays, and I point to these three guys because I'm not a paramedic, they deserve a lot of credit and stuff for everything that they can do out in the field compared to what I was able to do when I started. I was basically just an emergency medical technician. We just drove a little faster to get them to the hospital. Now we stay on scene and we work the patient, do everything that we possibly can, to help them. And then once we do have them stabilized, then we drive them to the hospital. So a lot of credit to the paramedics and stuff like that for what they can do, and that's the really neat part of the job as well. So if you think of something like that, it's kind of nice. You can do a lot more out in the field than when they get to the hospital. So basically you're saving their life, the hospital isn't. Okay? Yes?
So the stations all have they cover their own area. So say station one gets a call in their area, but then they get another one, would you guys respond to it?
Yes. Yep. Station 1, Station 2, and Station 3. The city is divided up into 3 sections. So each department has its territory, so to speak. If station 1 is out on call, like you said, then station 3 would possibly respond, or station 2 would respond, depending where the next call came in at for us to respond to, depending on who's ever closest, or which fire engine is closest, or which ambulance is closest. Okay?
So something happens here, who comes here?
Station 2 would come here, which is us,
Which is where?
which is right off of 32nd Avenue in
O'Malley's
Stewart.
teen school.
Yeah, yep, right over by like Menards, that's where our fire station is, where the new station is being built. Okay, you get east of 8th Avenue a bit, then it's either gonna be station 3 or station 1, depending if you're on the south side or on the north side. You get east of the river, like by Wausau East High School, way over in that area, then it's usually like station 3, and by Tom Field, there's a fire station right by Tom Field on 8th Street and Bridge. And then Grand Avenue and Thomas, depending on this whole southeast part of the city, where by the airport, that's the other station, kind of covers that whole area. Okay.
So like today, when we were walking up here, you got a call, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so they must know you're here, so they covered it for you, was it station 1 or 3?
Station 1 then covered, because if this is the city right here, right down the middle, and we're covering both sides, but our call came into our territory on this side, well then station 1, who's on that side, covers this one, okay? If it would've come in on the north side, let's say, then station 3 would've covered, because station 3 is further north than station 1, okay? I know it's kinda confusing and stuff too, but once you know how it is, it's divided up into 3, kinda like 3 quadrants, like if this was the middle and right where the front row seats are, this is all of station 2's territory, that's station 3's territory, and that's station 1's territory.
So where do you guys, what's your boundaries?
So 8th Avenue, roughly just on the other side of John Muir, where most of you guys probably went to school, just on the other side of John Muir, Marathon Park, to the west, all the way out to the west, which is way out to the industrial park. If you were to take Stewart Avenue, all the way out, that's like station 2's territory.
How far north?
North, all the way to like Fleet Farm.
But we covered municipalities for EMS, because Maine, Town of Wausau, Hewitt, I guess maybe
Texas.
Amherst, Berlin.
Amber. They don't have ambulances, so any EMS call, 911 EMS call, we cover that with our ambulances.
How far south?
Then as far south with to the city limits, which is the river, basically the river.
What was south?
Exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
2,500
Yep.
block,
Yeah,
Lakeview Drive.
right, so like Home Depot there, that's about as far south as we go. And then we go all the way down by Colby, you know, and then basically it's the river. And then it's Rib Mountain that covers that part, so.
So, call comes in by Colby and Colby. What's your time from station to site?
What kind of calls is it?
That's,
What
let's say-
time is it?
Yeah. Let's say heart problem.
It would probably take us approximately, because that's our territory yet, because they're on approximately 11th Avenue, it will take us about 3 to 4 minutes to get there.
How long would it
Every
take us
time we
for
roll out
you
the
to
door, our goal is to be out the door in 60 seconds. So it doesn't matter if we're laying in bed sleeping in the middle of the night, or it's, you know, we're working out, we're supposed to be changed and wheels out the door in 60 seconds. Unless it's a fire call, then we have an extra 30 seconds to put all the gear on. So, everything when it happens, it's go now and fast, so.
Stop what you're doing and go, so if we're cooking lunch, and I got the stove on, and burners are going, let's say, I gotta turn everything off real quickly and out the door. And then hope that we come back, the food's not burnt or anything like that too. That's one of the downfalls, I hate to have bad food or something. But no, it's basically, yeah, you stop what you're doing. If you were watching a show or in the middle of a training scenario, you stop what you're doing and you go.
First
Yep.
and goal,
First and goal.
first overtime, gotta go.
Yeah.
Hold on, one more play.
That's pretty impressive though, to think that they can get from Menards to the Colby area in 3 to 4 minutes.
How long would it take us on our own time?
If you have stoplights, we don't have to stop for stoplights, so
Yeah.
that's.
Is that like
Yeah, I mean-
Little brake traffic laws.
Right.
I should say
Never
being
go
able
more
to
than
Yeah,
3
brake
miles an
so
hour.
much.
I break, bend.
Okay. It would probably take about 6 minutes or so, let's say, if you were just in your normal vehicle.
So you shave it down almost in half.
We should, yeah, about, maybe not quite in half, but we also have things on our ambulance and on our fire engine, as well as like at the intersections, that we have something that's set up also to turn those lights green for us. Okay, it's a sensor that goes off, and it's connected, and it makes the lights green. And we don't want them to turn red, like all 4 directions turn red. We want the direction that we're traveling to go green, so that traffic kinda keeps moving through, so everybody doesn't stop in front of us. We want them to keep going so that they can pull off to the right-hand side like they're supposed to. If they all stop because it's a red light and both lanes are blocked, we can't get around it.
Curb.
And it only works when we're going urgent with lights and sirens, it's activated by the lights.
Right,
If no lights, it won't work.
yeah. We can't just do it all the time, only when we have the emergency lights on, yeah, so don't think that just because we're in a fire truck, we just change the color of the lights all the time, no. Yeah, only in emergencies.
Why are we sitting here?
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, those are all great questions, I hope we answered a lot. If Corey can show you a couple other things here maybe, or what other things you guys wanna talk about a little bit?
I mean, we got about 30 plus drugs we have to know, doses for adults, pediatrics. We have to know their indications, contraindications. So this is our bag of drugs, and then we have a couple more in the ambulance that we can give.
So, what kind of drugs do you administer to an OD that, you don't know that they OD on?
So if we get a call for an overdose, there's a couple different ways that we can indicate on what they overdosed on. Narcan is our probably biggest one that we give for narcotic drug overdoses. There's ways that we can look at the body and see that they did take something that was illegal. And I'd say the best part is when we give them that drug and they wake up and they say, no, I didn't do drugs, and we're like, well, like, you did. Don't lie to us. But then there's a couple other medications. It all depends on their vital signs, signs and symptoms, and the different kind of tricks and tools that we've learned to look at the body and understand what a drug did to them. So,
What funds our fire departments and paramedics?
So the city taxpayers is what funds it, okay? The chief comes up with a budget to what we have to do, and then the finance committee and the director and stuff through the city of Wausau approves what we can and can't buy. That takes care of like the fire engines, the ambulances, and all the supplies and everything that we need. That's what funds the majority of it. The little things that we use like around the fire station, because we are there 24 hours, is funded by us, okay? The taxpayers, once again, stuff like pay our wages and that type of thing too. But any other little incidental things that we need, we buy. If we want a new TV for the fire station, we chip in, we buy that. We need new not appliances, but say a new toaster, even just simple little things, we buy that. The food that we eat during the day, we all pitch in for the food that we eat, and we go shopping, we buy our own food to cook our own meals. So the majority of all the equipment, of course, is provided by the city of Wausau with the taxpayers.
The fire side of things we don't bill anybody for any fire call. If your house burns down, there's no bill that way. So the only revenue that we bring back is through our ambulance calls and billing insurance through medical insurance. So that's kind of the only revenue really of the fire department that we bring back to the city to kind of offset some of the budget.
So have budgets improved for you guys with the more and more drugs that we're seeing?
At the paramedic level is the only big change where we can actually bill more because we're an ALS service. So I'm sure roughly 20 years ago when they were able to start billing at a higher